This next panel has been my personal dream for a long, long time. If you're familiar with Latinas in Tech, you would know that every month or every other month we have a meetup and we select a different topic. Sometimes it's Latinas in engineering or Latinas in finance or product management, and every time we curate one particular topic that I've been dreaming on having is especially this one. Growing up in a town where my parents grew up in Mexico, they grow oranges. But then the best oranges, the largest oranges, the brightest and juiciest oranges, they don't stay. They import them, consumption. And I asked why? That's not fair. Why are the best oranges leaving our country? And they say, you know why? Because they can stand the journey. They won't die in the process. So every time I hear anybody on TV or in office saying that our country is saying the worst, they just couldn't be more wrong. They send the best. The most hardworking people are the immigrants in this country, and they deserve our respect. People that live that way only say that because they haven't given themselves the opportunity to talk to them. If they do, they will agree with me 100%. So to talk more about this, please, Saraya Espinosa, join us again on stage to moderate Dreamers in Tech.
Go ahead, ladies. Thank you. How's everybody doing? Last panel of the day, y'all made it. Round of applause to yourselves. My name is Saraya Espinosa Salamanca. I am founder and CEO of Dreamers Roadmap, and it is my privilege to be able to moderate this panel full of wonderful Latinas in tech, who also happen to all be dreamers. This panel is a little bit of a balance of DACA recipients and non-DACA recipients, and the conversation will be around how has that been for both sides in their careers in technology. We will have some opportunity of 10 minutes for Q&A after, so if you come up with any questions, feel free to write it down, and you'll be able to ask the panelists direct questions right after our conversation. So we will go ahead and get started. If each of you could just briefly introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Azaria, born in Mexico City and raised in Estado de Mexico in Ecatepec. Came to the US at the age of 5, graduated from high school, and thankfully in the state of Texas I was able to obtain in-state tuition, the first state in the US. So I was privileged to obtain my college education at UT Austin. Hook'em horns. After graduating, I actually waited for the dream act. That didn't happen. This is a while back in 2007. So I saved up, went to the Czech Republic, taught English and Spanish in Prague, moved to Mexico. I wanted to contribute to the social entrepreneurship ecosystem there. Came back to the States, did some consulting work in the East Coast, and then I tinkered with technology. I was really amazed and inspired by a woman who coded New York City meetup event. That's when I knew I wanted to be an engineer, so I moved to San Francisco, did a course on computer science, foundation really, in the beginning stages. I'd love to be an artificial intelligence engineer researcher someday, so I'm working on that. And currently I received funding for a project. It's called Stream This, and it's a video content series for newbies who want to learn about artificial intelligence and do-it-yourself, easy to understand kind of way.
Hi everyone, I want to start off by thanking the organizers for giving us a platform to share our experiences and our stories, and thank you all for being here. My name is Itzel, and 3 things you should know about me is that I love tacos, elotes, and pan dulce. I was born in Mexico and I came to the United States when I was 7. I grew up in a low-income community in downtown Los Angeles where I was raised by my mom. And growing up, I didn't really have access to technology because that was something that my family couldn't afford. So that automatically sparked my curiosity for technology. And And it wasn't until I went to college where I found out about computer science, and that changed everything for me. I felt like I had really found my passion, because not only would I be able to learn about technology, but I would also be able to create it, and that was something that was magical for me. I was the only Latina my year to graduate with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science, and and now I've been working at Pandora as a software engineer for 2 years. Last year, I founded the Latinas Engineering Leadership Program, which is a mentorship program to help Latinas studying computer science land an internship in the tech industry. I'm really grateful and honored to be here. Thank you all for having me.
Hello, buenas tardes. My name is Valeria. I was raised and born in Mexico, and when I was 16, we came to the US. And that made me ineligible for DACA. So what I had to do when I was a junior in high school is quickly learn English, figure out the college system, and I was able to go to community college, which gave me a great insight of where I was in my college level in English, math, and then I found engineering. So I transferred to Santa Clara University, and I just earned my degree in mechanical engineering, and I decided to stay for my master's, which is in mechatronics and robotics. I'm really excited about that, and thank you. So now without DACA, the uncertainty is out there, so I've been working for this machine shop, the only one business owner that was able to help me out, while I figure out what my next step is. Maybe entrepreneurship, so we'll see. Stay tuned.
Hi, hola, I'm Pam Velasquez, and I actually live in Los Angeles. I was originally born in Michoacan, Mexico, and I came here to the United States when I was a little over a year old, and I am 30 now, so I have been on DACA since it was created in 2012, and it was honestly a huge relief, because right at that time I was graduating from Santa Clara University, and I had no idea what I was going to be able to do. How do you start a career with so much uncertainty? It's not about being able to go out and get the job I wanted. It was about being reactionary and just taking whatever job I was offered. And so DACA was a huge godsend in some ways, because it meant that I could actually pave the path of my own career, and I didn't have to just take what I could get. And so it has been, in some ways, really empowering. However, it's really difficult to live your life 2 years at a time. It just is. You can't really do any long-term planning when you have no idea what your immigration status is going to be in the next, 18 months, or what have you. And so I think I personally have really tried hard in any way I can, with family, with friends, at work, has been a huge proponent of me just sharing my story and telling people, like, this is a Band-Aid and it kind of sucks. So I'm just trying to enlighten people a little bit more on what the actual real human experience is. That way they can understand when they go to the ballot box in a few short months.
Hi everyone, my name is Karina. I was also born in Michoacan, Mexico. I immigrated when I was 3, and actually the way that happened is my parents had actually come about 2 years before I actually came, and they didn't know what they were going to do when they were in the States without me and my brother, and so they decided to bring us over instead of going back to Mexico, for the main reason being that there's a lot more opportunity here, and they were not wrong. So since then, I went to college at St. Mary's up in Moraga, and kind of started an internship with Genentech and their university recruiting team. Loved recruiting. I realized that I was sitting at the table where I could bring in more people that look like you and me, and kind of say that yes. So I decided to continue, and in about, I think, 4 months now, I started a new role as recruiting and talent operations at Nova Credit, which is just a small startup that helps, that actually helps immigrants transfer their credit history. So it kind of fell in line with a big piece of my identity.
Thank you so much. Okay, so for the girls that do have DACA, we're going to talk about why is the program so important to you,
And what has the difference been when it comes to your career by having this protection that we talk about, that's this kind of like band-aid every kind of year and a half?
So with DACA, you get two things. So one is a social security number and the other is a work permit. Having a social security number has definitely made a big difference in my life because that means that you're able to apply for a driver's license, which gives you the opportunity to travel within the United States. So that meant that I didn't have to take, 10-hour long bus rides back home. I can now take an actual flight, which that's it's something so small, but it honestly makes a big difference.
And honestly, yeah, like it has made a huge, those 9 numbers that a social security number consists of are literally, they open so many doors. Like renting an apartment, having credit history, getting a credit card, like adult things that you just need in this country to live your life. And so in some ways it opens so many doors. It's like instead of having to think like, I need to get an apartment and this is going to be really difficult and it's going to be a Rubik's Cube of navigating a lot of uncertainty and doubt. It's now just like everything else. You can feel this sense of normalcy that you've never had before. But in other ways, it's, like I said, it's 2 years at a time. That's it, that's, when you're working in tech, like I've been in tech 8 years and I've had like 5 jobs. I don't stay in one place for very long, and so how do you do that? How do you mitigate that uncertainty with the little bits of comfort that you're receiving? It's really difficult, but it's incredibly, the protection that you feel and the lack of anxiety when you have to go through some of these processes is amazing.
I think, well, for me, like the best way I can describe it is the day that Obama announced deferred action, I had woken up and my dad had already watched the news. He's like, Karina, he was so excited, and I was like, you tend to misunderstand the news sometimes, so it's like, this is too good to be true, it's not real. And I think that has been my experience with it. It's like, it's really good, it is too good. And I mean, everything, I love to work and just being able to work. Like I get excited about the fact that I get to go and do my taxes and like all those little things that I think a lot of people just like don't like to do. Like it's just, it's such a privilege for me to do it. And it's just been life-changing on that end, and I think on the career too. Like actually, I was graduating high school when DACA came out, and I was already thinking about, after college, am I even going to be able to get a job? And that was a stress at that age. And that happened, I was like, oh, like sky's the limit now, basically.
Yeah, I think I also recall the day that Obama made the announcement, and I was thinking a very similar boat where I'm like, is this for real? And I think for me, even when applying or making the decision to apply for DACA, there was so much hesitancy, right? Because I'm like, it's probably fake. They just probably want all their information y nos van a deportar a todos juntos, there were so many unanswered questions. So, but yeah, I feel like DACA, it's I think even to this day, there's so many mixed feelings and mixed emotions, which we will get into a little bit more in the conversation. But unfortunately, DACA did not cover and protect everybody who deserved to be covered, right? Because of some restrictions in DACA, there were some age caps, and you had to be here from a certain year and arrive no sé qué, and have all these perfect, basically the cookie cutter kind of dreamer, according to them, no? But there were so many other amazing people that are also equally amazing and deserve that same opportunity that did not qualify for this program. And I'd like to hear from the two of you that are up here who did not qualify for this program, and you guys will share the reasons why, if you can share a little bit of the story behind how that happened, and the alternative routes that y'all have taken because of not being able to have this protection called DACA.
Yeah, so I left the US in 2009. I went to the Czech Republic. And so I wanted to create my own opportunities elsewhere because at the time there was always that uncertainty of when will there ever, if ever, be an opportunity for me to pursue and provide meaningful contribution to the US. And so coming back to the States, I didn't qualify given I didn't meet the 5-year continuing residency requirement. That was my situation. And so, I mean, I go back to always that saying, I gotta create my opportunities because if not now, when, So I want to pursue an artificial intelligence research role in the future, and so I'm teaching myself engineering, and there's this great organization actually here in the Bay Area called Immigrants Rising, and they empower undocumented youth by providing them educational and career resources, and they recently came up with an entrepreneurship grant. So if you know of anyone who has that entrepreneurial mindset, they fund your ideas, your projects, anywhere from like $5,000 to $50,000 to 1-year fellowship. And recently they came out with a Kickstarter grant, so it's up to $2,000. They're taking applications. It's on a rolling basis, and these opportunities have uplifted me. Because of Immigrants Rising, I'm able to pursue my idea of Streamless, be able to still learn artificial intelligence and share with others who want to also get into the tech field. Having said that, I also want to point out that high school students now who do not have DACA, that's every high school graduate, or every high school student who does not have DACA and graduates, we're looking at nearly 100,000 students each year. So, there's this opportunity, but yet every year there's a number of us, and it's increasing in numbers, and, there's got to be a real solution to it. So,
for me, it was similar. I arrived to the US when I was 16, so I was over the age that they ask you to be when you arrive to the US. It was 2011, so 2012 we came out, and I was not living here for 5 years to apply, so that didn't work out. And what has forced me to do is, like as I mentioned, it really pushed me to consider the other options that would have never crossed my mind otherwise, like being an entrepreneur. Like my entire family has that entrepreneurial spirit. My dad has a shop, my grandpa had a stand at one point. I think we can all relate to that entrepreneurial family value. But if I wasn't in this limitation, I don't think I would have ever explored that. And so when I was graduating college, I realized, okay, I can't apply for a job, and when I applied, they always rejected me. So what am I going to do? I reached out to Immigrants Rising, and we figured out this way to start a STEM fellowship for folks who did not have DACA, so they can get some professional experience. Because what I've noticed in STEM is that unpaid internships are not a thing, or at least I haven't found any. So I couldn't get any professional experience to start being an entrepreneur and sell my services. So that was a huge challenge, and that I've seen a couple of my friends, as I included, we're facing, and we're trying to figure out, how do we do this thing? And so entrepreneurship seems like the right way, and there are other alternative routes that I have been able to explore, like joining an LLC and offer services that way, but the problem there is the experience. So there are still many challenges that we're trying to explore and see what works best. So what we found is to rely on small private businesses that can offer that spot for you to get that professional experience. As a fellow, as an intern, as an apprentice, apprenticeship is the key, I think, for our field. So I've had to be really creative through professors, research opportunities, anything I can get my hands on. So I'm excited that I'm a TA for the machine shop, so I'm machining all day. My favorite thing in manufacturing. I'm still looking. Honestly, it's tough, but we have hope.
And just round of applause for people like Asaya and Valeria, please. I think, it gets me all emotional, because I feel that we live in such a unjust system, and you guys deserve nothing but the best, and you guys also deserve that opportunity. But just know that we're still fighting. We're still fighting for all of us to be able to get a more sustainable and real solution to the problem that we're all facing, right? And this brings up the question of the folks with DACA, right? DACA is glorified day after day as this beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing, and yes, it was good. Yes, it opened many doors. But there's also a downside to DACA, right? And for the DACA recipients on the panel, I'd like for you guys to share what are some of those fears that you encountered with the protection of this program to this day.
So I feel like the fear of deportation never goes away, even if you have DACA. And I feel like I've been lucky to start working in the industry while DACA is still active, but there's a lot of students that are trying to finish their college education that are uncertain if once they graduate, will DACA still be active? Will I be able to use my degree for my full-time job? And I mean, I think one of us said it perfectly, we're living our life in 2-year increments, not knowing if in 2 years we're going to have a job, not knowing if we're going to be able to support our family, and so that's always a fear of mine, even with DACA, that we still face.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's living your life 2 years at a time is really difficult. It's taxing. It is very taxing emotionally, and also just time consuming. Like I think back at all of the hours I have spent thinking and strategizing over my immigration situation. I could be an engineer by now. Like and it's insane, because it's a lot. And something also that is a bit more, emotionally, I think, hard is, anybody who's known anybody who's done the DACA application, you have to prove a lot. You have to provide a lot of documentation, a lot of evidence. You have to provide your parents information. You have to tell the U.S. government, hi, I am the child of an illegal immigrant, and this is who they are, their names, and where they live. That weighs on me, whether or not it was worth it for me to do this if my parents could potentially be in danger. I worry about that constantly, especially, when I applied for DACA in 2012, I was like, oh, it's fine, Obama's in office, or Obama made this on his way out of office, it's fine, don't worry, nobody's gonna take it away or do something crazy and go hunt my parents down or anything like that. We're separating families and putting kids in jail. So I think the fear is only gotten worse, especially since 2016, of just what's gonna happen to me, but also what's gonna happen to my parents who still don't have an option like I do.
Yeah, I think the 2-year increment piece is so important. It's well, not even every 2 years, you start planning for your DACA application a long time before it's actually due. I think that's a big one. I would say the other one is similar, when Obama was in office, I was we have a pretty stable administration, this is relatively safe. And then things really, really changed. And I remember before Trump was going into office, I was crying because I was his whole agenda was not delete, but eliminate DACA, and I was crying and panic, what do I do? There was all this stress. He hasn't done much, we still have DACA, which is really great. But there was so much stress those first months that he has been in office, and it's just you never know if people not even wakes up, he's probably at midnight thinking and sends out a tweet that DACA's done again or something. So it's really kind of a tumultuous time. And then I think the third one is also just knowing that the government has all of that information, and so they can easily just one day, again, if they decide to change everything, they can just come and knock at your door, and what that would mean to me and to my family and to everyone who's kind of who I love as well.
Definitely. And I think one of the other things that I remember constantly is that fee. It's $495. When the program initially came out, it was $465, and then it went up to $495. And mind you, this is a 2-year program, but you have to renew this at least every year and a half so that it doesn't, so you don't run the risk of the permit expiring, which it has happened in some cases, right? I remember some people renewing, asking, can I renew a year in advance? I'm this is insane. Why are we in this situation where we're having to renew every year? And that's a lot of money for, I think, a lot of us, right? As immigrant families, as sons and daughters of immigrants, undocumented immigrant families, that ends up being a lot. That's either like part of your rent, a whole week of food that we have to sacrifice to pay for this protection, right? So that's like, there's like vaguely one of the other things that I remember when having DACA and having to think, okay, so this month either I'm not gonna be able to completar para mi renta or I'm gonna pay DACA. You know what I mean? And even with that, there's like a lot of programs, right? There's fortunately have been a lot of programs that have come out and have supported dreamers when it comes to actually applying for the program and renewing mostly, where they have free legal clinics where they allow you to come and like there's going to be lawyers helping you pro bono to reapply for the program, and then also some of them even give you the scholarship of $4.95 if you have significant financial need. Just for those of you in the audience that know someone or know of someone, just know that a lot of community organizations have these programs available.
Can I add?
Of course, yeah.
I would say the other thing too is with the creation of DACA, my fear has also been like the divide that people have tried to put between DACA and non-DACA, and put DACA as like, oh, these angels, these like hardworking students, and then like anyone who doesn't qualify for DACA is automatically like seen as sometimes even less or portrayed that way. And I think that's a big fear, because I think as an immigrant community we have to stay united, and it's sometimes difficult that some of these policies come in place and kind of do like create tears in that community.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, and I think that yes, that's an extremely good point. And a lot of that is media, right? Like the media that kind of covers these stories and have covered our stories forever, right? Like we have to have those opportunities to put ourselves in front of these cameras and share our real perspective and see more of this. And it's like, no, it's not like the DACA and the non-DACA. It's like we are just humans who want to get an education, who want to get back to our community and just live a normal life in the country that we call home. Like ultimately that's who we are on this stage right now. And this brings me to the following question, which is, what can we do as dreamers and allies to get closer to a real solution, whatever that means for each of you individually?
I'd say that as mentioned, I'd love to get into tech as an AI engineer someday. And there's been always barriers in the sense of, I see this great opportunity, it's entry level, they're going to provide mentorship, it's 3 months full time, and then all of a sudden, work authorization, must have US work authorization, and that's it. That is me out. It would be amazing to like connect with human resources or like some sort of organization that can provide some sort of fellowship and kind of meet us halfway, because currently there is no entryway for us.
So one example of an ally who's made like a big difference in my life, and this is also for the dreamers in the crowd. So just recently, actually last year was when I felt comfortable enough to share my status with my manager, and he supported me in trying to figure out if there's a way that we can have a long-term work permit with the legal department at my company. And so we started the process about a year ago, and we found out that if you're under 18 and you got DACA before you turned 18, you didn't accrue what is considered unlawful presence. So if you don't have unlawful presence, then you can apply for an H-1B visa. And so my company had never been in a scenario where a DACA was trying to get an H-1B visa, but we still tried it anyway, and my manager was supportive, the whole company, I felt like they really had my back. And so we gave it a shot, not knowing if it was going to work. And 2 months ago, I got notified that I got approved for an H-1B visa.
And just for it seems like almost everybody knows what that is in here, but just in case if there's somebody in the room who does not know what an HB1 visa is, can you?
Yeah, so that's a long-term work permit that allows you to travel outside the United States and also paves a way for you to get a green card. So,
Yes!
So yeah, it's it's like a dream come true, and yeah, if you're a dreamer who came under the age of 18 and you got your DACA, then that can also be a possibility for you. And now we're working on the process of applying for my green card, and we'll hopefully, I'm hoping for the best, but it's so uncertain that we just have to see, because to activate your H-1B visa, you have to leave the country and come back, but I can't leave because then we don't have permission to come back to the United States. So there's always caveats with the legal process, but at least it gives me a sense of hope that there's a way for us to have a permanent solution.
Thank you. Congratulations. I will say something similar to what Saya mentioned. It's about opening that slot in your company. Do you have the power? Because what I've noticed when I was advocating for myself, can I have that internship, please? Can you do this for me, please? Like, the HR people do not have the power to make those decisions. But if you do have the power to make those decisions, you're able to form this apprenticeship, educational experience, 10 hours a week, something like this. So people that don't have DACA, or that do have DACA and might use it anyway soon, if I hope it doesn't, they can get that professional experience running, right? And also education, which I think your coworkers and your managers are doing. If they're able to educate themselves, understand how this works, what DACA is, they're able to support these people even more. Understanding that you qualify for that visa, imagine if they didn't know, they would have missed out on amazing talent. So I would say that, education, and if you have the power, maybe opening up that spot for them.
So I think for me, the best thing that an ally could do for somebody with DACA is honestly just hear our story and keep it. You know, like carry it with you and make decisions based on what you know. You know, so you know our story. We're up here telling you how difficult it is, how it's very uncertain. So next time when you are thinking about DACA or you hear it in the news, advocate for us. We are extremely vulnerable because we have no voice, we have no vote. We can't influence anything through the regular, normal means. And so we really need people who are citizens, who know our story, who know how difficult this is, who know how hardworking we are, to advocate for us when they can. I'm the first person to start calling up some Congress people and sending some letters, but voting, and I try really hard to share my story as much as I can, as much as I feel comfortable with doing that. That way I can start, I guess in my mind, I see it as creating a web. If I tell 5 people about my story and they're super impacted and really shocked by what they hear, they're gonna go and tell hopefully like 2 other people, and then those 2 people are gonna tell 4 people, and that way people really understand what this is. It's not just that term that keeps getting thrown around in the news or that thing that Trump keeps tweeting about. It's just, it's real. Because I think that's one of the hardest parts is people realizing that we're real people. We want to live a good, solid, happy life and contribute to our community. And that's all we really want to do. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, I think the big one for me is call your Congress people. Even if you're like, oh, this is a blue state and they support it, still love them, call them. If you can call them every day, hey, that's great. If you can get other friends to call them, that's great. If you've never called them yourself, there's on the internet, there's a lot of good templates of what you can say. Sometimes they won't answer, you can leave voicemails, it's less intimidating. But I think that's the big one, just being able to call your Congress people, really put pressure on the people that can change the laws. The second one is definitely about sharing the story. I think what tends to happen, I'm a big fan of conversation. Even if you don't agree with me, I want to talk with you because I want to understand you because you're still a human. And I think for me, my personal perspective is that a big issue is just that a lot of people haven't interacted with us, The only perspective that they have is what they've seen on TV, and that's not usually positive. And so for me, I'm willing to share my story. I know not everyone's comfortable, but I'm always willing to share my story just so that one person potentially, hopefully, if they see, they're like, oh, I guess they're not these bad people that just are taking our jobs, If it changes their mind, then I'm all for it. So I think just being able to continue to share that, to make sure that there's other people out there who just gain awareness and have a different perspective than the one that's usually portrayed in the media.
Thank you, and I love that. I think, yeah, we can't forget the power of our stories, right? And what that can do, and it literally does change people's lives. Like, true story, like just because like you brought it up and it reminded me. I think like a couple months after Trump got elected, I was working at a co-working space for Latino entrepreneurs at Stanford. And one of the other company founders that was there is like, oh, I want you to meet one of my friends. He's a conservative and he just needs to meet you. And I was like, whoa, like these guys are probably gonna go call ice on me during this dinner. Like, what do you, just don't tell them my situation. And he's like, no, like that's what I want you to tell them. Like I want you to tell them like what you're doing, like your background, because they need to know the real story, right? And I think it's true. Media like tends to kind of portray this like terrible image of immigrants and undocumented immigrants in this country when we're not. As Rocio mentioned, it's like we're bringing the best and very talented people to this country. And we are the generation that has been fortunate enough to get that education to prove that point. And yes, by the end of the dinner with this white man, he was like, oh my goodness, like you're brilliant. We have to be building bridges and not walls. And I was like, yes, like okay, we have one more on our side. I don't know if he'll ever vote against Trump, but at least now he knows someone that has our story and our background, and that he knows that in the back of his mind. He's like, okay, these people are really here to do something positive and do something productive for this country, right? Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
I think for allies, don't ever underestimate like what you can do. Like it's honestly the little things. Like I felt comfortable sharing my story because I had a strong community that was like cheering me on the whole way, right? And I remember in my current company, I was sitting at my desk and I turned and my CEO's coming and his shirt is "We are all dreamers."
Yeah.
And like that literally made my day. And I was like, we had to go out like do a photo shoot because I had the shirt as well. And I was like, and just like even seeing it from someone in my company and just like what they put out and from family and friends, like I think there's so many little things you can do just to like cheer someone on when they do share their story that definitely means a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah. So one last thing that I think is can be very impactful in your company is having a wiki page or some informational page. Talks a little bit about what DACA is. You'd be surprised how many HR people I've encountered and they're kind of confused as to why I have a work permit, but I'm not a citizen. And that's something that could be easily solved by having a wiki page where it talks about DACA. I know there's a lot of pages that have information on different visas, but I haven't really seen one about DACA, so that's something
to do for savvy people that want to create that page. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so to end off, if y'all could each just 1 minute during kind of all of this chaos and uncertainty and like blah that we're going through right now, what brings you joy?
I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. It takes a toll on you because you're living it every day, right? So I'm currently just doing self-care. I'm also trying to mental well-being. That's something that I'm working on. Talking to someone in that professional realm because sometimes there's days where it's a struggle. So yeah, that's my dream. And what keeps me joy is being surrounded with my community, my friends, my family, and knowing that I can, take on the next day and the next.
What brings me joy is mentoring students and really, going to classes and kind of telling my story, going back to my community and saying that it is possible to, get a job in the tech industry because I know firsthand the power that it has to see somebody who looks like you in a space where you never imagined somebody would be. Through the program that I founded, I get a chance to help Latinas who are in my situation get a job in the tech industry, which is super fulfilling for me. And I think that's the one thing that just keeps me going, seeing that there's a lot of talented Latinas and Latinos entering these spaces that will make a difference someday. And just being here, being at events like this, getting a chance to meet women and Latinas, Latinos who are, driving impact in this industry, that really brings me a lot of joy. So thank you all for everything that you do in your companies and wherever you're at.
Kudos to that. For me, it's also building community, and it's being in a group where I can joke about not having papers and it's okay. it's just building that a group of friends that you're totally safe with, and there are groups like that already that we're trying to form every other weekend. We're having barbecues for folks that don't have DACA, for folks that are hustling. We call it the Adopt You Hustle. We're looking for a name. And also we have Dreamers in Tech, which is a great organization. We have a couple of coaches here, so you should definitely talk to them and see what's up. So I love going to these groups and just joking about not having papers.
I think this is a really important question because it takes a toll on your mental health. It really does. I heard somewhere along in the last few years someone talking about this idea of migratory grief, that if you're an undocumented immigrant, you're constantly grieving something that you have no control over. It's like a part of you is this is super dramatic, but a part of you is constantly dying and you're constantly having to deal with that. And so I think it's super important to find ways to just not think about it or find ways to lean into it. And I think that's what it is for me. I try really hard to not just share my story about DACA, but also share my culture with people who aren't experienced with it. I like to eat, so something that I do that brings me an insane amount of joy is making traditional Mexican food, making some sopes, tamales, and taking them to work, sharing with people the amazingness of our community. Taking people to a really cool hole-in-the-wall Mexican restaurant where no one speaks English. And that's amazing because I think it's also giving people an insight. I love doing that with my, non-Latino friends because you see that they're like, wow, this is so cool, this tastes so good. And it's just like, yeah, this is what we're trying to do. Like this cool, delicious culture, this is all we're trying to bring here, is hard work and good food. And so I try to find joy in that.
I think you said something really good, like when you lean into it sometimes. So I think for me, like trying to balance the joy and like the fear of DACA that's always somewhere in my head is finding, okay, what's gonna bring me joy right now? Do I need to back out, like not look at news, not look at anything, and just like focus on myself and hang out with family, and sometimes that's it. And I think sometimes I find joy in like charging ahead and being like, okay, I'm gonna stand up. I'm feeling a little like impotent, like I can't do anything, and so I feel like talking, yelling, whatever it has to do, like to share about this is sometimes how I find joy. And I think it's led to like meeting really great people and like really great opportunities from like getting to meet you guys and like going to to Congress and seeing them. And so I think I always try to count those things that DACA has brought me, like the people that it has brought me with. And so that's sometimes what I do to kind of remember that joy that comes with everything.
Thank you so much. And then as far as me, what brings me joy, and I think it was echoed along all the answers, is just like community spaces, like to be sharing spaces with y'all and with everybody here in the audience. I think it's definitely crucial to choose the right people to surround yourself with, because yes, it is a toll, and even after you kind of find this pathway to citizenship, and you'll find out soon, hopefully, when you get your green card, it doesn't end there. I have my green card now, and we still kind of have these fears and these traumas, but it's the people that I surround myself with that remind me that everything is going to be okay, that it's worthwhile, it's worth fighting for, and that there's so many people behind me and behind us that we need to continue to stay focused to give them that opportunity and that certainty and safety at the end of the day. And then just as a fun fact thing, like I just love music, I love to dance and karaoke, like that brings me like ultimate joy, just going to the beach, turning off my phone and spending time with my daughter and my husband. Like that's like little moments that I think all of us, right, regardless of your situation, because of where we're living right now, I just encourage all of you to take that time to just disconnect and spend time with your loved ones and just enjoy the moment. And with that, I'd like to transition into our audience Q&A. I don't know if there's a mic out in the audience. Yes, there is. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists? You can just raise your hand and somebody will come and bring you the mic. Does anybody have questions? Y'all can help me out because I'm not wearing my glasses, so I'm like squinting.
We got one right here.
To see. Okay, there's one right here.
Perfect place.
Thank you, Lily.
All right, we got a question right here.
So, as a dreamer, I've come to a turning point in which I've decided to work on myself. I've almost had this fear. As in, do I throw myself out there and then nothing happens? What if, this dream just disappears? What happens? And as a parent, as a husband, as a son, uncle, you can name any title. At what point did you have that experience and really push yourself to come out and work on what you want to do? Not being afraid, insistent.
Great question. Did you guys hear that question? Oh, it's kind of a little bit hard to hear, so correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But this is what I heard.
Mm-hmm. I can repeat it.
Oh, okay. Or do you want to come closer? Whatever.
I think I'm afraid that I'm going to
Okay,
be
go ahead. Okay, sorry.
Hold it closer.
You can go ahead.
So, at what point in your life did you decide to make a choice to come out and exist? Career-wise, community-wise, what made you say, enough is enough, I need to do something for myself to represent my community?
Okay, go ahead. Any of you can answer that question.
I'd say that I wanted to see someone like me. I haven't met, I mean, a few of us, we're in community, but it'd be awesome to meet other non-DACA folks who are into tech, and I wanted to lend my voice and provide that inspiration, or just even someone that I can be in community with, and they can reach out to me. That's the reason why I recently have come out.
So for me, when I felt comfortable enough to share about my status, it was actually last year. Today is actually the first place where I'm publicly saying that I'm a dreamer. But last year I told my manager, and I think it was because I felt like I had a sense of safety, where I had graduated, I had my education, and my manager is also Latino, which is super awesome. And that's something that we should all look for, allies in our workplace, even if it's just a coworker. A coworker of mine, she's also going through the H-1B visa, and she was the first one I confided in, and she kind of encouraged me to tell my manager. So I think it was, a combination of having a job, having already some savings, because, if anything happens, then I can rely at least on those savings, and also having this safety net that was my education, that kind of gave me the confidence to tell somebody about my case.
I remember the first time I did that, I was in high school, I was probably a senior, and somebody talked about taking ownership for your life instead of feeling like a victim of what your situation was. And I immediately thought about my citizenship status, my lack of citizenship status, my immigration status, and thinking I want to do everything possible I can to make sure I'm taking ownership and I'm doing what I can to change this. But I have to admit, it's not always safe to share. I am still very selective with who I talk about things, who do I reach out for help, because people are out there with malicious intentions, and you're gonna take care of yourself. But that was the moment that I decided that it was better for me to take ownership and ask for help because of my specific circumstances.
If you are a good judge of who your audience is and you feel relatively safe with them sharing about other aspects of your life, if you talk to them about your situation, I was honestly taken aback by how sympathetic people were, by how interested people were. People asked me, I started really slow. I started literally just telling my boyfriend, because obviously that's kind of important. And truth be told, I have an older sister. She's had a relationship end because through several different circumstances, she didn't share her status, and it caused a lot of friction in the relationship. So anyway, I told my boyfriend. He was incredibly supportive, and then I started telling a couple people at work, just like my peers, people I felt comfortable with, and I remember sitting at lunch starting to talk about it, and it straight up turned into an all-company AMA. People were like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Well, what does this mean? And they just refused They were like, how is this happening? How on earth are you, Pam, this girl who looks and is exactly like the rest of us dealing with this issue? And so it was really, really amazing to get that kind of a reception, but it took me a while to get there, and it was terrifying. I was sweating profusely the entire time, because I was like, oh my God, what if somebody has malicious intentions? What if someone doesn't agree and now they don't want to talk to me or work with me? I'm really happy to say I've never had that experience, and I think a big reason for it also is I've been in tech my whole career, and I think people were just more open to it. People were more receptive. It was a bit more of a diverse environment than a hyper corporate job. So yeah, I think that was the moment. Was sharing with a couple people and realizing that, wow, you guys really do have my back now so hard.
Thank you so much, and I think with that, we will wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. We will all be here for some time, so if you have more questions, please come find one of us. We'd love to talk to you some more and continue the conversation. Thank you very much for your time.